You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. John Carpenter, The Early Years, Halloween.
Hello, welcome to the second season of the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Its purpose is to look into the horror films, dissecting them one screen legend at a time. Our second horror legend and focus for the upcoming season will be writer, director, producer, composer, legend John Carpenter, where we shall look back at his career and the impact he had on the horror film genre. In order to do this, though, I need a team of horror aficionados that I grabbed together and to talk through each of the movies. There's myself, lead surgeon Paul Farrell. I'm just a self-confessed horror freak and love anything to do with the horror genre and the celluloid screen and everything that comes together with it. To my left as we sit...
well. Sorry. Yes.
To my left as we sit here is...
the Big Cheese!
The Big Cheese.
Is that your name now?
Yeah.
The BC.
The BC. I'm Big Cheese.
Anthony Yee.
Every surgical team needs a Big Cheese.
Yeah, and you're it.
That's me.
And the head honcho.
No, just the Big Cheese.
Big Cheese.
You're the head honcho.
I'm the head honcho, you're the Big Cheese.
Big Cheese.
Welcome, and...
Thank you.
And to my right I have Ben Skinner, who is our...
And we have Ben.
We have Ben.
He is also here.
Who's
also here.
just decided to pop in.
Hey, Ben.
And he's basically here because of his keen eye to detail and other little quips and quirks that he likes to throw in along the way, hopefully for your listening pleasure.
Right.
As we get into this is our fourth instalment of the John Carpenter sessions, and we're looking at his earlier films, so like the first kind of 6 films essentially he did. This is the fourth, and that is probably one of the biggest of them all, Halloween.
You can just hear in Paul's voice. He's
excited.
He's just bursting out.
I am.
He's
It's like this entire...
I was thinking I'll sing.
You can talk over it.
Probably the first time we're going to hear this. And loves queuing up these.
I love that.
Do you know what's like? I mean,
So this is what, because I'll be like...
it opens on this music
It
too.
does.
So
This is like
this
the
is
joke.
good.
So if I go do and then Ben should go and then you can do the bow bow.
Yeah, we could
do that.
We could do
Drone.
that.
That's not the Inception drone, is it?
No, it's the chord. It's the keyboard.
It's
Do you know how he
That's
came-
when he collapses on the...
Yeah. I just love like
mistake.
4 chords. This of all the things because he seems brilliant for being just 3 chords or whatever,
Yeah.
and then charges $1 squillion for them. I don't know. But this one is the coolest because it's a little bit more complicated, but it works.
It's like layers of sounds
It is.
on each other, and it's... Yeah.
and it's suited well because this being not just because of the horror, but this is leaning towards that kind of thriller
Yes.
side of things. So it builds up on tension, which is what this does by putting the layers going up. And like it's just little subtle differences in the score too as the film plays out. It's not just the same kind of.
Do you know where he got the bass from? The actual it was bongos. His dad
really?
taught him the bongos, and he taught him 5/4 beat, which is yeah, and that's how he got it. That's he just started with that, and then he's like, oh, that's
Can you
right.
imagine the theme just on bongos?
Just as I'm saying, it's all on bongos. Did you know "Learn to Fly" was composed on acoustic guitar by Dave Grohl?
I think every song Foo Fighters have written would be
I
composed on an
thought that would have been like thrashing out metal and shit on the electric.
you
You usually
gotta-
start on
you gotta
the
start
acoustic or the piano. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if John Carpenter in this recent run of live shows has pulled out the bongos at all. Like
I'd love it.
if that's
That'd be
like,
great if you
that's
did
not
that
a euphemism.
live. If you did Halloween live on the bongos, that'd be so awesome. It would be great. Can you imagine the cheer when people finally figure out what the fuck he's
Yeah,
playing?
exactly. It's like trying to figure out what song Bob Dylan's playing these days. His voice is just completely gone.
Okay, let's get to the beginning of the film.
So we're here to talk about Halloween, and you know, as listeners can probably tell, this is an iconic film in its own right.
Can I firstly say, Ben, I can't believe you've never seen this film before. Get it out of the way.
You and your slander.
Pretty much.
Well, how recently did you
I saw
see this?
it. We were going to do this podcast originally. So it's
That's
got
right.
2 weeks old in my memory.
Yeah.
You were 2 weeks
You
old when
watched
you
it.
saw
I saw it 2 weeks ago.
You saw it for the first time
First
2
time
weeks
2 weeks
ago,
ago.
which I had a conniption about.
Should we talk about? So I think I saw it when I was 16, and it was the first film that introduced me into this. Like, I think after Scream, I think that was the introduction to the old stuff.
slashers.
But this was the first of the ones I watched after Scream. So
Yep.
Scream was my.
You saw Scream first?
I saw Scream first.
That's
That's
little
what
bubber is
fucked
Ben.
So I saw Scream probably 14, 15, and then it was like open up this whole world.
Yeah, nice.
Halloween
Okay.
was the first one I started with, so obviously that was like.
So what was your immediate thought when you saw like this thing that was obviously 3 decades older than Scream?
Yeah.
Did you think, as a kid, that didn't, but you didn't care? You're like, this is great.
It still is. I think it still is. It's like the scariest film I've seen. Like,
Right,
and that's it's. I think it's mostly just all the score is part of it.
Yes.
Right,
but-
yes.
I just think there's something about the mixture of him being in the shadows for most of the film,
Yeah.
and just like the filmmaking, like
Yeah.
it's just the way that it's all edited together. I think.
And did you have an appreciation that this is being made in a particular way that's having a really profound effect on you, or did you?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
my first reaction was, holy fuck, I need to hide on the couch.
Right.
But I think everyone that I've talked to kind of has that same kind of reaction, and they still look back on it fondly.
Yeah.
Like it had been a while since I'd rewatched it, but it still has that. Like it obviously, nothing beats that first time when you watch a horror film.
No,
Yeah.
no, that's right.
But it's still it's interesting how there are one or two moments that still send a shiver up your spine when you are watching it.
Yeah, that's right. It's to me, it's. I mean, as we all know, and listeners out there that have tuned in previously, I'm a big fan of horror in itself, anyway. But John Carpenter, for me, just really spoke to me as a kid.
Right. So did you see this before Assault on Precinct 13? Or?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did.
Right.
I think at the time I watched those kind of films, though, I probably didn't associate that it was from the same director.
Right. Yeah.
Because I was just young. I was just watching them. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, what's that?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I was a bit older that I kind of was like, oh, these are all from the same dude. Far out.
Yeah.
So and had an even deeper respect for him as a filmmaker.
I wasn't that. I didn't watch horror films when I was a kid because I was scary.
Well, that kind of came up, didn't it? In
Yeah.
fact, you haven't watched this one before.
I was 16 when I saw Aliens, and that switched me over to sci-fi horror.
So this is the thing. So
Yeah.
this is probably where we should explain that Ant's very much in the sci-fi camp, and so it's logical that your introduction to horror would have been something like Alien, where the two worlds merge. So and so. Which is a testament to how strong Alien is, regardless of the material that's within it. The fact that it can balance both genres in equal.
Yeah, brilliant.
So
Right, let's get to the beginning of the
but
film.
yeah, let's talk about it. So new listeners out there. So the general rule is that we just start kind of talking about the plot line of the film, and we just kind of goof around, talk over it as we work our way through said journey. So. As already said, it opens with that iconic music that Ant was kindly playing for us at the head. And then we get like this interesting, jack-o'-lantern that's kind of sat there against a black background as the credits start to roll.
Oh yeah. This is back in the old days when films, the credits were mostly at the head of the film.
Yeah.
Yes. The classic example being Superman. And the credits go for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's during his journey, the
flying through space
journey thing. Yeah.
Stay confident.
Yeah. And everything. So, and we're told that it's Halloween in 1963. We hear these kids singing a Halloween song, which, in a sense, what is it about when kids sing nursery rhymes or songs?
It's always creepy.
It's creepy.
Yeah.
There's something about. I mean, like it's used in A Nightmare on Elm Street with the Nightmare song. But it's often used in a and I don't know what it is that makes it creepy, but
it's like clowns, which are meant to be to please children particularly. But I always found them creepy as fuck.
Yeah, same.
As a concept. So yeah, I don't know.
And they're always singing. I think it's because they sing like slightly off key as well. It's always a minor sound to it rather than a major.
That's true.
sound.
That's true. So anyway, look, we then zoom in on this like suburban house, and we scroll around to the outside where a couple are making out in the living room. We then come back around to We then
and then the soundtrack changes.
wow.
Did you ever notice that porn from the 70s is really short compared to porn today? Because it was filmed.
Do you mean their stamina is?
Yeah, no, it's because it's filmed, so you've only got like
Yeah.
20 minutes worth of stuff. So as a filmmaker, you're like, okay, just cut to the orgasm shot. I love the idea that these guys being like film students about how precious their film is.
There's that scene in Boogie Nights where they run out of film or something.
Yeah, okay.
And
It's another film I haven't seen.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and he just goes,
just let it go.
Video revolutionised the porn industry
yeah, man.
because any schmuck with a camera can make porn, and that's why porn these days go for fucking hours. And you're like, I've forgotten why I'm watching this because it's just, Because back then there was like nuanced sort of storylines, comparatively speaking.
Anyway, and
You've gone into porn. You've seen so many films. Just porn.
we've lost you. We've lost you into the porn world.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of done as this kind of a POV kind of style camera thing. So we're kind of going around at the outside of the house, looking in, and we're seeing this couple kind of making out. We then kind of we follow the camera into the house where the camera pans up and, it goes into via the kitchen. Mm-hmm. We see a hand grab a kitchen knife, and then we walk through the lounge, and then we see the boyfriend coming down the stairs, putting his top on and leaving.
He was quick.
Which is one of these things. It's like people keep joking about how this is the quickest ever sex act in film history.
That's the first thing that I like to seeing it for the first time 3 weeks ago. My first thought was like, wait, is he done?
Oh yeah, baby!
I thought he was going out to get the condom. No, he went out the door.
5 seconds of pleasure right there.
Yeah. He turned into a little woman. No need to thank me.
Best night of my life.
Yeah.
And so we see the boyfriend go out of the house. We then venture up the stairs, and there's this mask that's on the floor, and we see our assailant put it on. Mm-hmm. We go into the bedroom where we see a naked young girl sat there brushing her hair in front of the vanity mirror. She turns to the camera and screams "Michael" before then being stabbed to death
By Michael.
So the camera then
Go on.
The camera then pans away and then down the stairs before going back outside before being greeted by a man and a woman. The man says "Michael" again before removing his mask. And it's revealed that it's a 6-year-old boy who looks shocked by what he has done, looking straight to the camera. The camera pans up and away before fading to black.
So my first thought, without going into the script blind, is like, this is a hell of an impressive shot. It's a tracking shot.
It's one take, right?
Well, it's one take. I knew where the cut was because usually when these big one take things are cut in half, and I knew the cut was when he puts the mask over the camera.
Yes.
Yeah.
But having said that, I was thinking, holy shit, this is really well choreographed. And straight away, I'm thinking this is a big leap in his directing style.
Yeah.
He's doing something that's very Spielbergian. Not that he copied Spielberg, because Spielberg came after.
Yeah.
But it's like he's suddenly done something. He's gone to film school. He's gone like, I want to try this shot.
Yeah.
And he's just gone with the massive, ambitious tracking shot, which a lot of filmmakers, when they want to be ambitious, do that.
Yeah.
But it is a very impressively well choreographed shot because it starts from the outside, looks at the window.
Yes.
You've got to focus pull for all that. You've got to block all that. Because you see the couple quite clearly.
Yes.
Goes around the back. You see the hand grab the knife.
Yes.
Which was Deborah Hill's hand.
Yes.
Yes, there you go.
That's
She's
right.
the producer.
That's right.
And then you go
And
upstairs.
co-writer.
Co-writer, yes.
Spoiler.
But thank you. But he goes upstairs. As soon as you're going upstairs, that's a big lot of choreography that you got because you got lighting people. Which apparently, as soon as he gets to the top of the stairs, the lighting gaffers were running downstairs changing the lights.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a hell of a shot.
Yes.
It's really impressive. I saw this found footage film a few years ago called The Devil's Due, and it starts.
I've seen that.
It's about a husband and wife who the woman gets pregnant with the devil's baby.
Yeah.
But the opening shot is the husband literally creeping up to the house and climbing up the outside of the house to scare her with his video camera, and it's a complete homage to this shot
Yeah, right.
because the house looks exactly the same.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, okay, that's where you got that from. But it's a hell of a shot, and for me too, the really cool shot that's still like even today, if you did a shot like that, you'd be proud of it. Is when they whip off the mask.
Yes.
And Michael's face is so perfect.
Yeah.
Because he's completely stunned.
Yes,
he's just not there.
No.
And it's creepy as fuck, and the kid does a really great job with because he's holding a fuck off butcher's knife in his hand.
Yeah.
It's a really nice shot. And I was like, this is really cool. Like 1979, what did 79?
No, it
still holds up.
It's a good way to open a film because it's kind of like it's not like the rest of the film at all.
No,
But it's almost like I love those movies that have just like the prologue, I guess.
Yeah.
And it just kind of sets the tone for what's to follow. But it's not necessarily like there's not really another section of the film that's kind of done in quite the same way.
One of my favourite all-time openings to a film is Once Upon a Time in the West.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, it's amazing.
But there's scenes in isolation that work. You know, you can watch them in isolation and appreciate. Like that one goes for a while.
Yes, it does.
But it's obviously been like meticulously pulled apart over the years. Judged by film critics and things.
Well, I noticed from this film he's gotten into blocking a lot more.
Yes.
Where, like, the classic being, there's bits where you see later on where Michael's in the shot, and he's not in the shot, and it's all one take.
Yeah, that's right.
And he's really... And Spielberg does it a hell of a lot, too. I didn't really notice that until recently. But yeah, just slabs of pages taken care of by one shot. But,
yes.
Which you think would save on time, but it doesn't, because you actually need to work really hard to get one shot right.
Yeah.
And then back then,
Well, you always assume that they've had this idea from the very... Like, they always intended it to be that way, executed that way. But it's most of the time it's not necessarily the case. Like, it's just the director who's brought that to the script and gone, I'm not going to cover this the way it's traditionally done. But in terms of like the canon of great tracking shots in history, like I think this is one up there. It's probably not it's not like the Shining level of like smoothness or anything, but because it's a POV,
good fellows with a
but because it's a POV, it's obviously doesn't need to be like that.
No, that's right.
Because it was one that he uses a Steadicam too. That was the first thing I noticed. It's like, clearly this is Steadicam, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, but I thought it was really cool. I think, and it would have been cool if that was the only time you ever saw Michael's face, which is not true. But that's a spoiler. Anyway.
No, we do see it towards the end, don't we?
Yes. Which he regrets doing.
John does. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Anywho.
Or Michael.
No, on my face. So what happens next?
So we then arrive at Smith's Grove, Illinois. It's dark and raining, and there's a car driving along. Inside, in the passenger seat, is Dr. Sam Loomis, played by Donald Pleasance. Driving the car is a nurse, and from the conversation we gather that she's new to the scene.
Yes.
They talk about a particular patient.
This is a few years later.
This is a few years later, yeah. They discuss, what's it be, 1978 that we're talking now, so this is now 15 years down the track. So they're talking about a particular patient, which is Michael, and they discuss how they need to prepare this patient for a court appearance. And she's saying, you actually never want to get him out, do you? You want him to stay in the hospital? And he's basically saying, yeah. We get to the hospital, and it's revealed that some of the patients are roaming around outside the property. Loomis gets out to see what has occurred. The nurse stays in the car when someone scales the roof. She winds down the window, only to be grabbed by her hair. She drives, but then comes to a stop. The patient smashes the window, and the nurse escapes, and the patient flees in the car. And then we have Pleasance coming up going, he's gone! The evil is gone from here!
This is an iconic line, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because that struck me as like a psychiatric doctor supposed to be impartial. No, he's fucking evil. So, do you think he's evil? Well, do you think the fact that I said the evil is gone from here is a giveaway? So Donald's pretty much just psychologically scarred.
But you believe him though?
Oh, completely.
Oh, absolutely.
Pleasance really sells it.
He serves the purpose of setting up to the audience that this guy needs to be taken seriously. As a psychiatric doctor, I don't think he's impartial anymore, and maybe we should take it off the case. But I love this too, because the shot of the headlights coming around and you seeing the patients. I fucking love that.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Zombies. I thought zombies straight away. I thought this is something from Left 4 Dead. This is something from Walking Dead.
Yeah,
it was a really great shot.
It's way before any of that.
Before any of it, and it's creepy as fuck.
It is.
When you walk up to the psychiatric hospital, which happens to be in the top of a mountain in the rain, and there's no lights,
roaming around,
and they're fucking roaming around. That's like, don't get out of the car! What the fuck? It's so good. And apparently the actor that jumps on the car is the actual actor that plays.
Oh, Michael.
Yeah. Right,
I didn't know that. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Can I say another thing about her uniform?
Yes. The nurse uniform.
The nurse uniform. There's a Ricky Gervais movie where he dies and comes back to life and he sees ghosts.
Yes.
And there's a really nice moment where he walks out of the hospital.
Isn't he?
Yeah, he's a dentist, yeah. There's a really nice moment where he walks out of the hospital. One of the nurses is dressed just like that nurse.
Right.
And it's a visual cue that there's something wrong with her without them telling you what it is.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was... Because I've been thinking, what decade do nurses dress like that? I thought it would be like the 50s.
Yeah.
Apparently it's the 70s.
There you go. And you reckon that was a nod to the film, or just?
Well, it's the same thing. It's a blue cape with a red.
Yeah,
It's exactly the same trimming.
So it's not historically accurate then. If this is meant to be...
No. Well, I assume they chose a nurse that was contemporary from the 70s.
And it puts it in that.
Yeah, so I assume, that nurses in the 70s.
There you go.
Yeah.
So Michael's fled off in the car, and you've got Dr. Sam Loomis kind of...
How did he learn how to drive? He's been in a psychiatric institution all this time.
It's one of those big things that gets talked about.
Oh, does it?
People have often said, how did he learn to drive? We'll come to that in a second, because it actually is answered in the film.
Oh, okay.
Or it's suggested in the film. So we then come to Haddonfield and it's Halloween night. Haddonfield, by the by, is the town where Deborah Hill grew up.
Ah, cool.
And it's a lot more famous now because of the association with Halloween. But yeah, and we kind of get this empty autumnal street in kind of suburban America, which we've seen countless times ever since this movie's come out, and a massive nod to it in It Follows, which people may have seen recently. We see Laurie exit her home, so this is Jamie Lee Curtis's character.
Yep.
Her father reminds her to drop off the keys to the Myers house, and then she walks off.
He's a real estate agent.
He is,
That's right, yeah.
So she walks off alone with books in hand. Then we get this boy running up to her, who's called Tommy, and he asks if she's coming over. It's clear that she is his babysitter and is due to look after him for the evening. Mm-hmm. Tommy tells her that she shouldn't go to the Myers house as it's haunted. The audience sees a shadowy figure lurking inside as they walk away. As Laurie continues down the road, a figure watches her.
Yes, it's the first time he's clocked her.
That's it. So we go back to the hospital now, and Loomis is stressing the seriousness of Michael's escape to the warden. And then we get this bit where the warden said, "I don't even know how he got in the car. How did he get out of here?" So Sam Loomis actually says, "I don't know how he did it. Maybe somebody here gave him lessons," hinting that the security was lapsed, and people were just kind of doing that. So it is kind of mentioned. So there is a slight loophole. It's as very thin as it is.
But could you also
Has that ever been addressed? Was there a person in the future movies who actually basically helped him escape? Because that'd be kind of cool.
No, I don't think it has. And well, you can only look at it as the Rob Zombie stuff. Oh, do you know that there's going to be another Halloween instalment being made, and John Carpenter's been brought back in to compose the music again and to potentially be on hand to write it. I think, not direct it.
Because he's kind of lost his novels.
There was rumours. I think Adam Wingard was going to do it, but I don't think he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think. Anyway,
we should do maybe we should do a prequel where it's just him learning how to drive.
It's the Rogue One.
Do you know I've seen that?
Yeah.
There's a comedy sketch that's done of that where it's a guy that's a driving instructor taking Michael around, and he's just like, okay, so we take a left here, and he deliberately keeps killing people. Like, I'll let you off this once.
Presumably, you've been able to watch films and how hard is it to if you've seen enough movies, if it's an automatic.
Yeah,
you kind of wing it a bit anyway, can't you?
I don't know if you've never
put your
done it
foot
before.
down and just let loose. It doesn't have to necessarily follow the road rules or anything. But
no. But it does drive off.
It was a wet night as well.
It was.
So
wet roads. And he does drive off without any gear crunching going on.
Yeah. So it is. It's probably manual.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know.
Anyway, cool. So then we go back to Haddonfield, and we're inside a classroom where Laurie sees someone in a mask staring at her from across the street. When she looks back up again, he's gone.
The theme was playing at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Tommy is being teased and picked upon when the bullies run off, and it's revealed that Michael is watching him. And he then drives in a car following Tommy as he's heading off.
Yeah, so this is a nice tracking shot. It was cut in two, but it was done well. I had to watch it again to see how he's done that. But yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it's really good. And again, that kind of creepy, kind of voyeuristic.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's what he does for the first half of the movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
Look at people.
There's something I said. Look, I can't remember who it was. It's one of the. It might have been the producers or one of the later directors who said one of the great things about. Oh no, it wasn't that. It was Kim Newman, who's a film critic for Empire magazine in the UK.
I actually love the horror.
And he loves the horror, and he said one of the great things about the character of Michael is that he teases people. Like he could easily just go up and just dispatch people, like straight off the back. But he doesn't like. It's like a cat with a mouse. He likes to play before he kills, and he said that's part of what makes the character so so great because he just teases him. That's good. I like that analogy. So we then go back to Loomis again, and he's on a payphone telling officials that Michael is coming to Haddonfield.
Yeah.
Loomis discovers an abandoned truck and the disbanded medical gowns that Michael was wearing. As he walks off, the camera reveals a dead guy in the bushes.
Yes, that's where he got his overalls from.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Laurie and her friend, so we're back in Haddonfield again. Totally.
Oh, yeah.
This is
that's what kids said in the 70s.
PJ Souls, who plays Linda.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, like I was watching one of these kind of extras and these Q&A things at conventions, and somebody asked her how did she kind of ad lib some of that stuff. She goes, "Well, it's in the script, but she did throw in a few more totallys to."
Which apparently Deborah Hill wrote the teenage girl stuff.
Yes.
So apparently where Deborah grew up, totally.
So then we meet Linda, and she's walking with Laura as they head out of school. They're joined by another friend, Annie.
What happened to I'll talk about it afterwards. Sorry.
Michael then drives by, and Annie calls him a jerk. The car stops suddenly before then driving off.
She says, "Hey, speed kills." When I grew up in primary school, that was a catchphrase from all the kids. I had no idea it came from Halloween. That makes complete sense, because I would just say it too, not know what the fuck it meant.
Yes.
But because I think they're setting up a PSA campaign.
Yeah.
And that's where it came from. But it made it all the way to Sydney, Australia back in the 70s.
It did.
So there you go. But when she said it, I had a huge flashback.
Just imagine like a PSA with John Carpenter talking, "Hello, children. I'm here to tell you about driving and speed."
Yes. Don't hang out with serial killers.
No.
Anyway, yes.
So as they walk home, Laurie sees Michael come out from behind some bushes, which is quite the famous shot of the tall. It's a tall hedge, basically. He comes out standing beside it, and she motions to Annie, isn't it? I think that's with her.
Yeah, it's the brunette that's with her. Yeah.
Yeah. And Annie then goes to give whoever it is a piece of her mind, but he's already gone. Annie then goes home, leaving Laurie to walk alone. It's then that Laurie bumps into the sheriff, who is Annie's dad, and he says, "It's Halloween. Everyone's entitled to one good scare."
And he was the cop from Assault on Precinct 13.
He's the cop from Assault on Precinct 13 and a John Carpenter regular.
Yes, I'm gathering that now. He's
Charles Cyphers.
I'm noticing the interesting thing here is that he's in broad daylight. The few times we see him now, he's not in the dark.
No.
So again, coming out fresh, I'm thinking this is interesting.
Yeah.
Did he think about this or not? And it's just interesting, that he's not.
It's the kind of thing, like, because he's walking around with that the William Shatner mask, right? So like, but it's Halloween, so is it the case that you can kind of get away with it because you know, you kind of see people getting ready to gear up for a trick or treat.
Yeah, it's true.
So anyway, so then Laurie then gets home. She goes up to her bedroom, and from her window she sees Michael staring back up at her, which is a pretty fucking freaky moment.
Yes.
And I like that it is, in broad daylight.
Again,
seems like that unusually scary.
No.
But
if it happened to you in real life, though, you'd be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, no, that's right. You'd be like,
And Devil's Due actually does the same shot. I just realised that now.
Oh, well, if someone's staring back up and...
Yeah, it's staring back up to the kitchen window. They owe John Carpenter some royalties, I think. Anyway.
I think a lot of people do.
I once... This is quite embarrassing, and I'm going to put it out there, but I once scared myself. It was it was Halloween.
You discovered mirrors.
It was kind of like that. It was Halloween night. The curtains were open, and I was walking across the front living room, and I saw a figure walking along, and I went, "Oh my god, that's me!" A reflection of myself.
He's pointing at me like I'm.
Yeah, he's going, "Stop it!
Still not as scary as your kid who scared the shit out of me one day.
Yeah,
which we talked about in another podcast.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
All right, so back to the movie. So the phone rings, but there's no one at the other end. So this is Laurie. Picks up the phone. She hangs up, and the phone rings again, and they find out that it's actually her friend Annie, just goofing around. That's important.
Totally.
Later on, not that one.
Okay.
Annie. It's the other one.
Keep up.
Later on in the day, Laurie heads out. She sees some trick-or-treaters, and she gets picked up in the car by Annie, and they share some pot. Loomis arrives at Haddonfield Cemetery. He's escorted by the caretaker, and they come to the graveside of Michael's sister Judith, but the headstone has been removed. It came home. Yeah. So he talks about Michael as it.
Yeah.
And in the credits as well, he's not called Michael, he's called The Shape.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And then I'll talk about it. I just say that now. The reason for that is because there is in the credit for someone called Michael.
Is that the kid?
Michael Myers, which is the kid.
Oh, right.
So they couldn't have two Michael Myers.
You're telling me that's the only reason they didn't?
So they came up with the name The Shape.
Right.
Well, I could just say Michael 15, Michael, whatever. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Essentially, that's how it came about. So then we go back to Annie and Laurie, and they're being followed by a car as they're driving along. I don't know if you noticed that in the background. There's a car that's distinctively following them, which is
Oh yes,
the
I
car
did.
Michael's driving in.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they see the sheriff in the street, and he tells them that someone has stolen a Halloween mask and some rope from this local store.
Yeah.
Loomis then arrives on the scene to warn the sheriff that Michael is on the loose, just as it so happens that Michael drives past in the background.
Yes.
So kind of like... Night descends and we see Michael watching Annie arrive at a house where she is set to babysit. The sheriff and Loomis turn up at the old Myers house, and we're told that no one's lived there since the incident back in '63. They find a dead dog or a raccoon or something. We don't actually see it.
Yeah.
So they kind of, or a skunk,
yeah.
something like that. That's in the room. Suddenly, a drain pipe falls and smashes through the window. Just for a bit. That's just kind of like a bit of a scare moment, is it? Because the tension's there. Yeah. We learn, because we're obviously at the point knowing that Michael is using that as a bit of a base as well. We learned that Loomis met Michael 15 years ago. He spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then the remainder 7 years trying to keep him locked up. So a bit of background to how long Loomis has been attached to.
And Loomis is carrying a revolver too at this point.
Yes,
he reveals he has a gun.
He does. Has all psychiatrists too.
Yeah, I have a permit to.
I'm starting to think this guy isn't actually a doctor.
I was about to say. I just don't think you're completely impartial, sir.
So Laurie's
I'm a doctor.
Laurie's looking after Tommy for the night, and Annie calls up on the phone. We see a dog at Annie's house who's like the guardian, so of course we know that the dog's going to get killed at some point. While they're on the phone, Tommy sees a shadowy figure of Michael from across the street. He calls him the boogeyman, and when Laurie goes to look, he's gone. So this is the first instance where we get the notion of the boogeyman thrown into context too. Yeah. Which, I don't know about you as a kid, but the boogeyman was always something that was spoken about. And did you get that too, or you never?
Yeah.
So
there was even obviously like a film. Yeah. The boogeyman as well.
Yeah, which followed this and it tanked.
Yes.
But you're right. So like the reason I bring that up is this is another reason why this works. It's something that speaks to all kids' fears of the boogeyman and the scary guy down the street and things like this. So we're already getting a kind of this association that comes with that. We see Michael looking in on Annie as she's undressing because she spilled something on herself. I think it's like sauce or something. Just cooking with. We then hear the dog barking in the background and then suddenly stop. At which point we then see Michael, this is shot from waist height, holding the dog before it slides down motionless.
Man, the dogs get it in movies, don't
they? They do.
The dog's killed.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah. So Laurie and Tom, we go back to the house where Laurie and Tommy are, and they're watching the thing from another world.
Yes.
Really important for later on.
Yes.
For John Carpenter's career.
Yes.
Tommy was scared about the boogeyman, and Laurie promises that she won't let anything happen to him. We go back to Annie, who's now in the laundry room. Michael's watching her. She looks outside, but there is no one there. So it's again what you were saying about how the camera kind of pans and goes back, and there's no one there. The door slams shut, and she can't get out. And the girl, she's looking after her, forget the name, is eventually she eventually comes out and rescues her.
So this is a long bow, I thought, because again, I'm so used to current movies where this is where she gets it.
Yeah,
nothing happens.
Nothing happens to her.
She climbs out of the window, gets stuck,
and
the girl lets her back in.
That's it.
Well done.
Yeah. So then, when Linda is on the phone to her boyfriend Paul. We see Michael watching her in the background.
Doing one of the panning shots.
I put Linda here. It's when Annie's on the phone to her boyfriend Paul, which is actually voiced by John Carpenter. We see Michael watching her in the background. So again, this kind of panning.
Yeah, choreographed shots.
Yeah. Annie gets Laurie to look after Lindsay. So that's the girl's name.
Girl. Yeah.
So that she can go and pick up Paul. Michael is still watching. Annie goes back to the house. She gets in the car and realises that it's all steamed up.
This is a nice touch, I think.
Michael crops up, behind her and strangles her to death.
Yeah, this was this. I remember this is the one that got me. Like this is, and I think whenever I drive anywhere by myself after this moment, yeah. For sure. And I know it's a cliche, it's a horror movie cliche, but...
It's been used a lot, yeah.
Particularly with those old American cars, because the back seats used to go all the way across, so you could really hide somebody.
Yeah, that's right. But what's great about this is just that little thing about the windows being steamed up.
It's very
so
clever.
Proving that somebody was in the car. So, and her reaction to...
Okay, it was
what?
like, her
but
mind catching up with
it always happens like... you don't have enough time to think about it before it happens.
Yeah.
Like, you should be able to prepare yourself for, okay, someone's going to pop in the back seat.
Yeah.
But it happens like, it's almost like it happened, he knows the exact point where it should happen, and then he makes it happen like a half a second earlier or something.
Yeah.
And when it's got that music, that sound, which happens the exact same moment he crawls up and...
Right.
Yeah.
Because I was seeing it, like I said, as an adult 3 weeks ago, I was thinking, I was getting to the point, come on, kill her already.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's the moment, because she's noticed he's breathing, he's obviously in the car.
Yeah.
And he comes up. But the thing that got me was, like, how did he kill her? Because I thought, is he strangling her? Because obviously, they get more gory as they go along. And I didn't realise, after the movie, that you don't really see a lot of blood.
No.
The entire film.
No, that's
But
right.
he does cut her throat or something at some point. But again, it was such a weird way he did it. I had to look twice.
Yes.
And so until later, you find out exactly what he did to her.
Yeah.
But it was good though. It was clever. Particularly the breathing on the window. I thought
I love that
really
bit.
clever.
I love that bit.
Yeah.
There's a really good in the Luther TV series. There's a really good good use of that. Luther. There is a good episode where they do that. And what's great about Luther the series is it handles misdirection in a really good way for a lot of it. And then there's this one bit where one of the cops goes into a house with this girl, and it's quite creepy because they've got to walk through all these corridors, all the lights are off and stuff, and we're kind of feeling like something's going to happen to them. And there's another cop sitting outside in the car, and it's not until it cuts back to the car when all of a sudden somebody crops up in the back seat of the car, which you're not expecting because you're thinking they're going to do something in the house. Love it. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So anyway, so we come back to Tommy, who's playing a trick on Lindsay, and he sees Michael carrying Annie's body up the house across the street. He cries boogeyman, but Laurie doesn't believe him. We then see this interesting scene where I love this scene, right? So we see this interesting scene where Loomis scares some kids away from the Myers house.
That's right.
And he has this really gleeful look upon him. He looks fucking mad.
I was like, I really don't. I just want. Did they renew their license? Because I think they need to have a look at this guy.
I love that bit. It just so shows how unhinged he actually is, from dealing with this guy. And that one moment just says so much about his character.
Yeah, no.
Like, he breaks the fourth wall in that moment. He's like, come on, I need to even I did have a little fun.
It's good. I love it.
He's really Michael.
So then we now see Linda and...
Doesn't the cop come at this point and says, I haven't found him yet?
Yeah, he comes up, yeah.
And at this point I'm thinking, this cop is like... I'm taking a word from a guy, he has a flash media credentials, has a gun, claims he's a doctor, tells me he's a psychopath. Okay, well, I'll look again, but only one more time. So, because he's called yourself a doctor, I'll listen to you. Like, I know they didn't have the internet back then, but couldn't even go to radio saying, I've got this whack job.
Yeah, I know. It's all a bit...
But but he does what he tells him to, because he's a doctor. He knows what he's talking about.
That's it. We all believe in doctors.
Yeah.
So we now see Linda and her boyfriend planning a sexual night ahead. So Linda just reminds
So again, this is the laying of the foundation.
Yeah,
Once you have sex, you're fucked.
So did this rule start with this film?
Yeah.
Like,
because Friday the 13th that took that rule and made it something, right?
Yeah.
But it was Halloween that came before it, which Friday the 13th was modelled on.
Right.
So Friday the 13th is essentially a remake of Halloween, but just kind of throw the kids in.
So Carpenter wasn't exactly setting out to. I'm sure
it just happened. Yeah.
And then from then on, it became this thing that screamed. And
that's right. And it's Victor Miller who wrote Friday the 13th, who definitely played that role. He set the rules up. He basically went to see Halloween and said, "All right, these are the rules for a slasher horror film," and he wrote Friday the 13th. And since then, that's what everything has kind of been modelled upon.
Yeah. Right. There you go.
I mean, the whole premise of it follows.
Exactly. You fuck you fuck on the next, and thus forming the basis of feminist film theory papers for decades.
Hell yeah!
Oh yeah. Yeah, cool.
So we see Linda, and so she's the other friend.
Yes, totally.
Planning this totally audacious night ahead. They enter the house that Annie was in, and they get down to business. And Michael's just standing there watching them, unbeknownst to them.
He's going, yes, and you're done. Great. Now I'm going to kill you.
Now I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
Linda and her
just hand stuff doesn't work.
Linda and her.
If it was just hand stuff, you would have gone, fuck, shit, okay, can't kill him now. Sorry.
We cut off a limb.
Wait.
You got a limb.
Nothing life-threatening.
Yeah.
I did not have I did not have sexual relations with this woman.
Yeah.
Dry humping.
Dry humping gives you a severe talking to. He just hurts your feelings.
So we see so Linda and her guy Bob go up to the bedroom, which is where they get more physical. We see Michael's shadow in the background. Bob then goes to get a beer, leaving Linda smoking in bed.
Yeah, she is.
Bob, I love this scene. Like, this is a really cool scene. So Bob sees the back door swing open. He closes it and thinks that Annie and Paul are playing a trick on him. And he basically goes, "Come on out." And as he says that, he opens a door, and Michael does. Stabs him and kills him.
Pins him to a wall with a blade.
Yeah, pin him to the wall. And then what's really lovely is...
Paul's just salivating right now.
The way he carved out his heart.
No, there's just this beautiful moment where... Because so Bob's like pinned to the wall kind of at a height, and Michael just looks up at him in a quizzical kind of way with cocks his head to the left or right. Which became then a signature of Michael Myers, the whole kind of cock in the head thing. But what I love about it is this curiosity with him. It's like when kids pull off legs of insects and kind of thing. It's that whole, and it's kind of what he's doing. And that one moment to me is just so beautiful.
Well, it's like his master. It's like his art.
Yeah, it is.
He's
Like,
figuring it out.
sits there and watches it. Stands there and watches it.
Apparently, it was a director moment where he did it, and then John just yelled out from behind the camera, "Now look." Till you had left, till you had right, and just sorted out on the spot. Yeah. And then kept it in the edit. But it works, it totally works. The interesting too, though, his feet, you see that whenever someone gets killed or pinned up, you see their feet. Yeah. Which is several feet above the ground. Yeah. But no blood trickles down. No. Which later on, when you see a shot like that, that's what you see. Yeah. But again, no blood. It's so flawless.
That's right. Right. It's all about the scare. So we have another one dead. So then we go back to Linda, who's still lying in bed. When Michael, this is the weird bit. Michael opens the door covered in a sheet,
and she says, "Do you see anything you like?"
Yeah, and he's wearing the glasses over the sheet.
He does.
Bob's glasses.
And he says, "Do you see anything like?" Apparently, like the actress went to see the movie one day.
PJ Soles.
And she sat in the audience, and her character says, "Do you think I'm going?" The guy behind her yelled, "Yeah, I do!" And she thought that was really funny. So yeah. Anyway, so this is good. I think
it's become that's another iconic line as well from the film.
Yeah.
You see anything?
But also in terms of the shot, I thought of Paranormal Activity 3.
Yeah.
Where the babysitter comes home and the little kid who's been running around the sheet sits in a corner.
Yes.
And the sheet just suddenly folds away. It's just like, oh, okay, that's where they got that from.
It was used in Doctor Who as well.
Yes, it was. But yeah, I mean, having said that, they don't have he doesn't have intellectual control over a sheet. But in this movie, it was done really well, I thought.
Yeah,
it's just a really nice shot.
So I've just lost where I was.
So he strangles her with a telephone call.
He does, but so before he does that, she then she obviously thinks it's Bob that's under the sheet, but she goes and calls Laurie.
Yes.
On the phone, and then that's when Michael creeps up and strangling her, killing her. And the reason why I say that is because effectively Laurie hears.
Yeah, this is the first time.
Over the phone, and she just presumes it's Annie. Playing a trick because Annie called up earlier.
That's right, and then she goes over to the house.
Yeah, that's right. So
she's on edge, but she still thinks it's a.
Yeah, she's
and that's the smart thing about this movie, because if there's a lot of generic action horror movies where it's like the phone call would have happened, but there never would have been paid off later on. The phone call would have just been as a way to set up the scares that would happen later on. There's going to be there's a reason for everything that happens.
That's it, exactly. So when Laurie then tries to call back, there's no answer. So that's why she then goes outside. Then we cut to outside and we see Loomis again, who suddenly sees. This is where he sees Michael's car. Yes. So it's proof that Michael's there. So then we go back to Laurie, who walks out of the house and she just for a moment just stands there watching the house across the road before then she starts to kind of go across to investigate. And she rings the bell, there's no answer. She goes around the back and finds the back door open. But Bob is no longer pinned to the wall.
Yes.
And so it's interesting about the blood there as well, because there's no evidence that Michael's been there other than the door's open. You'd think there'd be a big gaping hole in the door as well. But anyway,
he did some spackle work and he just cleaned up the blood, get some bleach.
He's considerate.
Yeah, he is. Clean up himself.
He's taught always to put his toys away.
Yeah, well, there you go.
When he was a kid.
Nice.
So, yeah. So there's no sign of anyone downstairs either, and so she goes upstairs, and that's where she discovers Annie's body on the bed with Judith Myers' tombstone at the head.
So he did a lot of work in between killing.
That's right.
He was going to find out how much work he's done in the next few seconds,
yeah, that's right. He does in a very short space of time.
Quick! Gotta move. Tombstone! Oh, no, everything's so heavy!
He got some home renovators in.
Thanks, guys.
He's just got little ninjas,
So then this is where, as you say, like lots of stuff kind of starts happening. So Bob's body then swings down before her. A cupboard door opens, showing Linda's dead body too. So basically, like three
dead bodies on it. Linda's cross-eyed look is a little funny.
Oh, when she's in there.
It does take you out of the moment. But then cool.
So this is a great moment again, like where Michael's watching Laurie in the shadows, just behind her. She kind of collapses to the ground a bit, and then he takes a swipe with her with a knife, but he misses, cutting her shirt, and she stumbles over the balcony and down the stairs. The scene that's used in Scream later on.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's they not only talk about it a lot, but they show that film a lot.
Yeah.
Like the Halloween, I think this is the whole scene where they were just watching.
That's
Halloween.
it. That's right.
I would imagine for people seeing the movie for the first time, when his face comes out of the shadows, that's the my bowels.
Oh, it's awesome shot that bit. Yeah. And again, it's because the mask was made to look so white.
Yeah.
Just beautiful contrast, in the shadows and the light that's used in this. And interestingly, like there's a bit of eyeliner on the. So he kind of hacks at the mask a little bit, but there's a little bit of eyeliner under the eye, which is a blue colour, and it's deliberately done that to kind of add to the coldness and the darkness of the mask. It's a really cool, very kind of simple thing, but beautifully done. So Laurie has kind of stumbled down the stairs. She tries to make a break for it at the out through the backyard, and she starts screaming for help. She starts banging on doors, but people just think she's playing a Halloween prank and ignore her. She gets to the house where she's looking after Tommy, and she's trying to get back inside. Across the street, she sees Michael approaching, and she manages to wake up Tommy by throwing a flower pot at the window. And then Tommy kind of comes down just in time to let her in. An interesting thing that's been picked up on this too, and the exterior shot of the house. So you've got the door is essentially towards the right hand side, and when they go in, there's a huge kind of bit around. So the internal shots, there's this huge room that doesn't.
Right.
And the door handle's on the wrong side. Right. Things like that people have picked up on, but we forgive it.
The classic, using a door handle, cutting to the interior. It's a sliding door.
Yeah, cool. So she eventually gets inside the house, and that's So she and she notices though that the phone line is down, and she also notices the window's open, and she cowers in front of the couch. Michael then pops up and goes to stab her. She reacts by shoving a knitting needle into his neck, and he collapses. Outside, Loomis is roaming the streets, and he tells the sheriff to look out for Michael. They go back to Laurie, who goes upstairs to get the kids. Just as she tells them that she's killed Michael, he turns up behind her. She locks the kids in their room and then hides in the closet. Michael then breaks his way inside, and with a makeshift coat hanger, she stabs Michael, who drops his knife. Laurie grabs it and stabs him, and he collapses to the ground. She climbs out of the closet and makes to escape. She then gets the kids to run to the Mackenzies for help, and they do so. Laurie sits down, and then Michael sits bolt upright.
Can I imagine the screams at this point?
Loomis sees the kids running off screaming down the street, which is when he's kind of finds out where they are, where Michael is. Michael attacks Laurie, who pulls off the mask, which is what we see his face. Just as he stops to put it back on, Loomis arrives and repeatedly shoots him, and he falls from the top window. We have a dishevelled Laurie cowering in the corner saying, "Was it the boogeyman?" And Loomis says, "As a matter of fact, it was." Loomis looks out the window, but the body has gone. The close on a shell shot to Laurie, a pensive Loomis, and shots of the empty locations with the signature tune and heavy breathing. The last shot is of the old Myers house. Close credits.
Okay.
The end.
See ya. So, what do you think of that, kid? So first thing I thought when the kids run out of the house,
Yeah.
obviously he straight away thought, "Oh, that's Michael," but how do you not think that was just kids playing practical jokes? I mean, was trick or treat over at that point?
Yeah, probably would have been by then. Like kids that age too.
Yeah.
And they are kind of screaming, "Help! Help! Help!"
Yeah, I guess so. But he did walk into a strange house with a gun. Thinking, if I got this wrong, this could go really bad. But he's
Shoots a guy in a mask. That's my husband, you bastard!
The other one, I thought, as soon as his head comes up in the background. Well, firstly, this is also the beginning of don't drop the weapon once you kill the guy.
Yeah.
If he survived the stab to the neck, maybe just keep the weapon on you. But she keeps dropping it, and that's the beginning of that annoying.
But that
thing.
we're still looking at this being done for the first time.
True. Very
So
true.
I know
But,
you're
yeah.
watching it from a point of view where
Yeah.
this is just a given that you don't do.
But
that.
it does happen in other films.
Yeah.
And that's that's where that comes. I mean, the other thing too is straight away I was thinking, well, Terminator's taking this. This is Terminator.
Yeah.
Because it's an unstoppable machine, which is what he is. It's a metaphor. You can't kill a guy. I mean, he's been shot. Later in the other films, he gets shot square in the chest.
He has his head decapitated.
Yeah, that's right.
And it still comes back.
It's hard not to separate it from what comes afterwards.
Yeah.
But if you're just talking about this film specifically, there is kind of that invincible quality to him. They don't push it too far.
No.
Like it's realistic enough.
And
I mean, it's played enough that we're dealing with somebody that's not human. Like he's not a human person anymore. That's why we get Loomis saying it all the time. You're stripping the humanity away from who Michael is.
Yeah.
So there is this sense of something kind of supernatural about him.
But I do. I mean, and the thing too, clearly, this was meant to be a standalone film, as most first films tend to be.
Oh yeah.
You don't dare to be ambitious enough thinking, no, this will be the first of a trilogy, as taken by the fact that they demasked him because that was it. So yeah, I mean, all of that was the first things that occurred to me. I loved. But afterwards, when Pleasance looks out over the balcony, he said, "I could do this one of two ways. One, I could be shocked, or second, I could not be shocked."
Yeah.
And which way do you want to do it? And of course, John being like any other director, he'd go, do it both ways. We'll see how we go. But he knew straight away, as soon as he said that was the one he was going to go with. Because it's so much more better when he just doesn't look that shocked. He just knows that it's just his worst fears confirmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice touch. It's nice. There's a scene in Lord of the Rings where, the whole thing with the Balrog when they go down to Moria, and the whole time, Gandalf doesn't want to go to Moria, and the way it's written in the books is that it's just a really dangerous fucking place.
Yes.
But the way Ian McKellen does it, every time it's mentioned, the look in his face is not. It's a dangerous place. You get the sense that he knows he's going to die there.
Yeah.
It's been predicted he will die fighting a Balrog in Moria. So that's why he can't say it out loud. Because he has got to think about the mission.
Yeah.
But every time it's just on his face, he's just, okay.
Yeah.
Is there any way I can talk you out of it? No. And then when you hear the Balrog roar, everything just drops away from his expression. Like, my worst fears have been confirmed. This is where I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And the way he says it, like, it's swords are no use here. This is meant for me to do. And Ray Pleasance does that too. It's just like, okay. I should have expected that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it also explains why he's kind of unhinged about this guy, because he's probably seen him, like elements of him that is supernatural in behaviour. Anywai, I thought it was really nice. I thought it was a nice, the way he acted and the story behind it was like, that was really cool.
I really liked the use of the empty location shots at the end too. Like keep flicking through. It was done in Michelangelo Antonioni's film Le Ventre, where we followed these couple walking around the streets of Italy essentially, and when it ends, we just go back and you're just seeing all these locations. So it evokes the memories that you've had of all these kind of places.
They did the same thing. There's a small western last year's Slow West.
Yeah,
it's got Michael Fassbender and Cody Smith McPhee. Yeah. And they have a shootout at the end, and then they go back. A lot of people. There's a lot of bodies along the way. People that lost their life along the way, and there's just it's obviously it's not a still frame. It's just just a locked off shot of that particular scene. It's a great way to kind of rather than just cutting it, kind of thinking back to everything
that's right.
Happened.
That's right, and because of the signature kind of music in the background, and you can hear Michael Myers still breathing underneath it all. It's just a really kind of nice way to tie it off. So what was your do you remember what your first reaction was when you watched it, and if not, what were your feelings after watching it again this time coming through?
Well, I know that, like I said, it's nothing really beats that first time when you watch it, but
Yeah.
I think I was surprised, because I'd heard a lot about it, but I think I was genuinely surprised at how scared I was the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
And, like, I still don't know if I can quite put my finger on what it actually is about it that makes it that, like, gets under your skin that way.
Yeah.
But rewatching it, I just keep noticing new things, like, every time I see it. Like, I mean, even some of the... appreciating the filmmaking, like, more and more. Like, some of those shots, like, especially early in the daylight scenes where he's following them around, like, just the blocking of some of those, some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, knowing more about filmmaking now, I can appreciate, like, coverage in itself is, like, but that's the thing, is there's minimal cuts, and they do play for the long takes.
Yeah, it's a
but you know exactly where everyone is, you know what he's thinking. You know when they cut to a shot, whether it's a POV or not. Like, you know when you're seeing things from Michael's point of view.
Yeah, yeah.
But that whole, like, the way that he conveyed that voyeuristic nature of Michael just through the lens is really, really cool.
Yeah, no.
But having not watched all of the sequels, something I've put off for so long because I just didn't want to ruin this one.
Yeah, yeah.
And I refuse to watch the remake. Like, I just...
Is the remake coming out?
Yeah, 2007.
Okay.
And then a sequel to the remake.
Yeah.
Oh, was it? I didn't know.
So obviously it was successful enough for Rob Zombie to go, I must fuck it up again. But
yeah, I don't know, man.
it's interesting that at the time, I mean, we'll talk through all the cast members, obviously, but
Yeah.
Donald Pleasance would have been the biggest...
Yeah, he was
biggest
We'll go into it now. So, like, we're tend to kind of just talk about the player of the piece, and obviously Donald Pleasance is gets the top billion at this point. He's the main character that comes into it. At this point, like, he's been in a numerous amount of films. Like, I've listed some here. Like, he was in he played Prince John in 1958's The Adventures of Robin Hood, the TV series. He played the caterpillar in Alice Through the Looking Box. He was in a Twilight Zone episode called The Changing of the Guard. Here is when you start getting into names that people might remember him from. Blythe in The Great Escape. He was in The Greatest Story Ever Told. He played Blofeld in You Only Live Twice. Yes. Mr. DeSelli in Diary of Anne Frank. He played the character Sen in THX 1138. He played Doc Tyden in Wake in Fright. He was in From Beyond the Grave, House of the Damned. He played Lucas in Escape from the Witch Mountain. Played Dr. Jack Seward in 1979's Dracula. He then comes to play the President in Escape from New York. Yes. Would return for Halloween 2, 4, 5 and 6. He was also in Alone in the Dark, Witness for the Prosecution, and he played the priest in another John Carpenter film, Prince of Darkness.
So did this...
Just to name some. There's so many more that he did.
It sounds like this... So do you think the Halloween was kind of where it was all downhill after that?
It's weird, though, because, like, well, no, because he comes up in Escape from New York, so I'd say no to that.
Sure.
So, but it's weird because he kept coming back to this movie, and the last film he actually did was Halloween 6. And it's interesting, like, when you watch these conventions, there's a sadness to the people that were behind the Halloween franchise, because to them, like, he was the franchise. The character Sam Loomis is the franchise.
Yeah.
Even though Michael Myers is closely associated, but you kind of have to have your Van Helsing to your Dracula.
Yes.
And he is that in this, and so when you lose that, you lose the kind of connection between the two.
Because you're a bigger fan of Peter Cushing than you are of Christopher Lee.
I am, I love Peter Cushing. He's awesome. Too many ways. Massive.
Right, yeah, cool.
Yeah,
it was great. I think there's a story behind it as to how they got him, but I can't remember what it was.
The documentary covers it on the DVD. It's quite... I mean, it wasn't easy. And obviously this is where the majority of the money would have gone, I would say.
But I find more, though, is the fact that he was obviously, like, he was quite old when he's making the last ones he was in. Yeah. But he was almost, like, dedicated to kind of carrying on that torch.
I don't know. For some reason, I feel like he was perhaps reluctant, like, for this, but then to be the massive success that it was, and then for him then to do these other diminishing returns, like, obviously, it's kind of like good and bad because it's an iconic role of his, but then
Yeah.
like, you know, it gets faded over time when you
That's right.
play the same character again and again.
All right, so then we have, let's look at the rest of the cast. We've got Jamie Lee Curtis playing Laurie Strode. This was her debut movie.
The daughter of Tony Lee Curtis and the girl in Psycho. Janet Leigh.
Janet Leigh,
Yes.
Yeah, that's
There you
right. And famous for them pairing up again in Halloween H2O.
Yes. They did, didn't they?
Yeah. So she would then go on, her career just blossomed
Yeah,
after
she
this,
does after
big
that.
time. She was like...
She thought she was going to get fired after her first day of filming or something like that.
yeah. So like, so she...
Did she have the male genitals at this point?
Sorry?
Did she have the male genitals at this point?
That's a whole other podcast. That's the discussion about her and Nicole Kidman in
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah. Anyway, so she would then go on to be in The Fog, Prom Night, Terror Train. She would be the narrator and the computer voice in Escape from New York, even though it was uncredited.
Oh, really?
She was in Road Games, would come back in Halloween 2. She would also be in an uncredited role in Halloween 3 as a curfew announcer and a telephone operator.
Oh, okay.
She would play Ophelia in Trading Places, crop up again in A Fish Called Wanda, Blue Steel, My Girl 1 and 2, was in Forever Young, True Lies,
True Lies.
Halloween
Love
H2O
True
20
Lies.
years later, and Halloween Resurrection. She was in the Freaky Friday remake, she was in the Veronica Mars movie, and then more recently was in the Scream Queens TV series.
Oh, is that...
And she is indeed a scream queen.
She is.
She's
Yeah,
she
she is in this.
earns a place in the.
That's right. With this, The Fog and Prom Night, it kind of, her first 3 movies set her up.
Yeah.
This is Scream Queen.
It's funny, like now actors try so hard to not be typecast, but
Yeah.
you know, it's like back then there was no issue with like it took her 3 films before she was like.
What do you think of this with her role in this? Because she's essentially the plain Jane. She's the virgin character, and then if you think about that, and then the fact that she would then become a sexual image in movie industry, it's such a shift from where we first see her. Is that, how does that play a part in Halloween at all, or does it not, or is it just more she became sexualized in a lot more films down the track?
I think that's unfortunately bound to happen to her in the
Yeah.
role that she plays, because she's playing a victim.
Yeah.
But the thing about her, she's such an unusual looking person. She's so tall and lanky, and her face is so angular, which tend to work better for cameras anyway. But I always see her as Jamie Lee Curtis. I think age-wise, I've never seen her as young or old. It's just Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
So, and the flicks, because her hair, the Farrah Fawcett hair she has, sort of obscures her face half the time.
Yes, true.
But I always just see her, I don't reconcile that this is 20-year-old, 19-year-old. That's about the same age as the character.
Yeah.
18, 19. But,
Yeah.
look, she's good. I found the other two more fascinating because of Totally Girl. And I found the other girl really, really interesting, but I couldn't really find that much of her online, so I'm curious to see what you say about it.
We'll go now. Just firstly, Jamie Lee, do you want to add anything on her in this, Ben? Or
Yeah, she's definitely like in that. If you look back, it's kind of like I put her in the same league as like Sigourney Weaver in the Alien films and
Survivors.
definitely yeah. And that's that. If you're looking for like I know that it's the thing now in Hollywood is trying to cast women in these strong female lead roles or whatever, but there are those rare exceptions going back a couple of decades where it has been happening. But they're few and far between.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that there is the issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
With recent circles.
Well, I think the way you said it
Recent.
is that they're survivors.
Yeah.
Whereas the current, like the Rays from Jedi and the new Star Wars film, she's a fighter.
Yep.
Buffy was a fighter. You could argue Sigourney was initially a victim, then she became a fighter.
She was only a fighter in Aliens.
Yeah.
Whereas in Aliens, she's a survivor.
She's definitely a survivor. Yeah.
But they tackle that really well. Like the transition
completely.
of her character is really believable.
when it's hardened.
It's hard,
So-
because and it's all about fighting the girl.
That's right. Okay, so let's look at the other girls that are in the movie. So we've got PJ Souls, who plays Linda. She's the more sexually vicious of the two.
She was in Stripes.
She was in Stripes, yeah, and she was also prior to this was it played Norma in Carrie. So her first two films were like these massive horror hits.
And then apparently she applied for Private Benjamin. Goldie Hawn didn't want her in Private Benjamin because she's another blonde.
Yeah.
And she had to work really hard to get into that film.
She did.
And the uniform she wears in Stripes is the same uniform she wore in Private Benjamin.
I was going to say, like, what's the connection with her being in these army films?
I don't know.
Like a really Like,
But I remember thinking, but this is my teenage years. I'm thinking, she's really cute. But
so
I'd seen her naked. If I knew she's going to be naked in this one, I would have seen her a lot earlier.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Back to the titillation factor. She was also in a film called Bloodbath. She would be in a film called Zuma Beach, which was written by Carpenter. And Private Benjamin said Stripes. And she would later, more recently, be in Rob Zombie's The Devil's Reject.
Yeah.
And you call it Devil's Project. Do you want to add anything to her apart from lusting after her?
Totally.
There's definitely a thing though with like at one point, is there a scene where she listens to like she's got the music cranked at some point and she's listening to music? I feel like she's chewing gum.
Yeah.
There's just like there's certain tropes that they always seem to introduce in these films in the 70s and 80s where a character is doing some activity. But I think what I'm thinking with the music was the friend of Linda Hamilton in
I was thinking
the first Terminator, where she
can't hear him,
and she's really grooving out to it. She can't hear it.
Yeah, what's her boyfriend ass kicked?
Yeah, that's cool. All right, so the other female character is I haven't written it down. Yes, I have further down. Nancy Keys, who's also known as Nancy Loomis. In this, note the surname Loomis.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because that was the name. Yeah.
So she plays Annie Brackett. Now she's the one you were looking up.
Yeah, okay. I was like couldn't find much. Better.
Yeah, so she was in Assault on Precinct 13.
That was her.
Yeah,
as
Julie,
the one that wanted to rat him out.
Yeah, that's the one. She would also play Sandy Fadel in The Fog. So again, another Carpenter movie, and would play Linda Chalice in Halloween 3: The Season of the Witch. That's kind of it to her credits. Right. But she's the only character is that right? Yeah, so the only person to have been seen in in the first 3 Halloween movies.
Right.
Because there's some flashbacks in the second one where we kind of see it, and then she crops up again in Halloween 3.
Yeah. As a different character.
As a different character, yeah.
Weird.
She was married to director Tommy Lee Wallace, who would go on to be actively involved in parts 2 and 3. But yeah, not a lot else done with her. She definitely crops up in all these convention things and still
does she?
talks about stuff. Yeah, she was done on that Halloween. There was a documentary called Halloween 25 Years of Terror, and they got her on that and talking in that. So yeah, but there's something interesting about her character in this. There's a bit of a spark and energy to her.
Yeah, I found her intriguing.
Yeah, same. Yeah, absolutely.
Because she wasn't a complete bimbo.
No.
Yeah. Weird. Very weird.
Any comments on the 2 women?
You're starting to sound like the most chauvinist fantasy podcast ever.
I know.
Yeah, she's a bit of alright.
Yeah, she's a bit alright.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on. So we also have the young girl.
Well, she looked a little bit like Jamie Lee Curtis. That was interesting.
Yeah, there's a bit of a similarity.
So she's like a more grounded adult version of Jamie Lee because she's quite the innocent.
That's right.
Which is why it was kind of hard to know where she was, because she wasn't a straight victim either. Because she didn't die straight away. She has like a chunk of the movie is dedicated to her. That's why I was finding this is interesting.
Yeah.
So yes, that's why I weirded out.
So we also have the young girl Lindsay is played by Carly Richards. She mentioned her because she would be playing Angie in Toby Hooper's Eaten Alive. Yeah. She was in outside of that. She was in a lot of like TV kind of shows. Had a recurring role in Little House on the Prairie. Not much else outside of that. We also have Tony Moran, who played the 23-year-old Michael, and is set to play him again apparently in an unofficial franchise adaptation, Halloween: The Night Evil Died.
Oh, okay.
We also have Charles Cyphers, as we've mentioned, coming into this playing Sheriff Lee Brackett. We saw him in Assault, Precinct 13. He does return in Halloween 2. We've seen him in Someone's Watching Me. He'd be in the Elvis TV movie as well. Plays Dan O'Bannon in The Fog, the Secretary of State in Escape from New York. So all these Carpenter vehicles that he was associated with. Would also be in Pee-wee coming in. No, he wouldn't. He played the character of Pee-wee in Coming Home, not to be confused with
Pee-wee Herman.
Donald Kaye in Death Wish 2, Captain Lader in Hill Street Blues, and he was in an episode of Freddy's Nightmares, played Charlie Donovan in Major League, and Coach Carl Marin in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He's often crops up, and he's kind of like he's always like the detective or the kind of cop character within them. Again, he's known to kind of turn up to these conventions and stuff. And then we have Nick Castle, who plays the Shape.
Yes.
Michael Myers.
He was chosen because he was big.
He was big, but he also
was a filmmaker too.
He was also yes, he is. But he's also known with Carpenter too because he plays the alien in Dark Star.
Right.
And if you watch that, it's quite funny that he's the alien in Dark Star. And he's the uncredited role. He plays an uncredited role in Escape from New York. But outside of that, not a lot of acting kind of roles.
Didn't he direct Last Starfighter?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yes.
Yeah.
He directed Last Starfighter.
Yeah, I think he did.
So
shit.
Tell you the story. Ron Cobb, the great illustrator, he lives in Sydney now.
Yeah.
And he was a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And that friend and I are estranged. Hi, Charlotte. But she invited me to a Thanksgiving dinner, and I went to her place and hung out with a bunch of other guys. We didn't know each other. We were aspiring film fans or whatever.
Yeah.
Then the topic of Alien comes up. And this guy who sits at the end of the table has been keeping to himself the whole night. He looks like Santa Claus, I swear to God. Yeah. Pipes up and goes, Alien? I said, yeah, I came with the idea for the Asper for Blood. And we're like, sure you did, pal. He said, yeah, I did. And what else did you do? And he starts naming off these random things. Like, I did this, I made that. I'm like, who the fuck's this guy? And then when we said The Last Starfighter comes up, he just suddenly comes alive. Because all the films that he illustrated for and came up with, The Last Starfighter was his favourite because it was so groundbreaking.
Right.
And then he starts getting these technical specs of the computers they used and how they had to cool them down. And then we're realising, holy shit, this guy's serious. And then we realised, so who are you? He said, my name's Ron Cobb. And then you could see one of us was on our phone going, holy fuck. But yeah, that was one of those things he said, like, we asked him, so when did you meet George Lucas when you did this? Because he drew all these things. And I said, so what, the alien thing? He said, yeah, well, really wanted to know how we can make this thing dangerous. So what if you made these blood acids, therefore you can't actually shoot it? And he was like, oh, great. But I want to talk to you about Last Starfighter. And he wanted to get back to Alien and all these iconic movies. All he wanted to talk about was Last Starfighter.
He made Major Pain as well.
Did he?
More to the point.
Love it.
And Dennis the Menace. Like, that's my childhood right there.
Oh, there you go.
Dennis the Menace.
So yeah, that's the thing. But when I found he directed Last Starfighter, I'm like, okay, he's an interesting guy. But I like the thing with him is people have asked him, what did you bring to the character of Michael? Yeah. A lot of it, he tells me to walk, I walk. He tells me to stop, I stop. He said I just walked.
That's the thing. Like, I think he was. I think he was hanging. That's right. He was hanging around on set or something, and they kind of said, and John Carpenter said, he said, can he come up and hang around on set? And John said, oh yeah. While you're here, can you just put this on? And basically just got him kind of involved walking around as Michael. So yeah,
I love it. Really cool.
So the other person, just to mention behind the scenes, as we've kind of hinted at, was also Deborah Hill, who plays the producer.
They were dating.
Yeah. She was the writer and producer for Halloween. She was also on writing duties and stuff for The Fog, Escape from LA. She was a producer on Escape from New York. She was a producer as well for The Dead Zone, Big Top Pee Wee, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, and Road Racers, which was an early Robert Rodriguez movie.
Oh yes,
So reason we have to mention her is because she's so integral to the makeup of Halloween. She was the one going around like with bags of leaves and throwing them onto the floor to kind of give the whole kind of
autumn look. Yeah,
autumn look. Yes, so it's just really integral to the look and feel of this film.
It just feels like it was synergy. They were a great team.
Yeah, and they worked together on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they worked really well.
Yeah, absolutely. So just so that kind of rounds out the ensemble. So just a couple of things as a director's note. So this was essentially set about from an independent film producer who were looking to try and make horror films at a low budget, but couldn't kind of get it to kind of work. And so they essentially kind of somehow got talked to John Carpenter and offered him the role, and they said basically we want a movie that's about a psychotic killer that stalks babysitters. And then he basically went away, wrote it, and said, okay, and his agent basically got him to kind of help direct it too. Said like he'll do it as long as you let him direct it too. Yeah. So he kind of basically had complete creative control over it when he came into it. The other thing to add as well is that the production designer Tommy Lee Wallace, he bought that iconic William Shatner mask and made it out of it, but he actually bought it for $1.98. And you just think about how much that original one would be worth today. Yeah. Really, really cool. So there was just a couple of things with that. So is there anything you want to talk about with you? And you've mentioned about how there's a massive leap from Assault on Precinct 13 to this one in the sense of how he's really honing his craft and bringing a lot of stuff into play.
His directing is leaps and bounds ahead of what he's done before, and I don't think it's a simple case of I got some really nice toys to play with. He's given a lot of thought into the choreography and blocking, which gets through the slabs of dialogue. It gets through slabs of pages, which you don't know. Spielberg does it a lot with his early films, a lot of his films.
Yeah.
But again, as an aspiring filmmaker yourself, that's when you realise to do that is really, really cool. But you take a huge risk because everything in that shot's got to work.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's got a lot of moving parts. But again, you do that when you're a confident filmmaker and you're ready for the next level, which he clearly was.
Yes.
But yeah, it was an impressive filmmaking exercise for me. Like I'm reading all about Deborah Kane, like it was just synergy. Everything in hindsight looks like it was meant to be.
Yeah.
No. But the fact that the name is also this holiday that celebrated, like
that nailed it.
You can't really separate the two. Like you think of one, you always think of the
Jaws in hindsight. Like, everybody's afraid of sharks. But until you made the movie about it, it really put everybody's fear on the table. Yeah. And Halloween's a really macabre holiday to celebrate.
Well, it's a really interesting one too, because at the time that Halloween was released, because originally, like the concept of Halloween was based around kind of celebrating the dead and you know, all the mystical kind of stuff that comes with it, and it's a pagan holiday or celebration, I should say. And then it kind of merged into the kind of this kind of, you know, the whole trick or treating thing. So the darkness that surrounded it wasn't so great after that because it wasn't so scary. Then this movie comes out and all of a sudden it sends it back to it being really a scary holiday again, you know, and so it really kind of changed the shape of.
Well, it's like everyday things. It's like, you know, any new technology comes out, you go, what's the military application, what's the porn application? Yep. But until the thing that makes everything scary is it's an everyday thing, and you can be the victim of a crime because of it. So the internet, when the internet, Facebook came out, this is fantastic until people realised you can lose your life or lose your identity through online social media. So Halloween, same thing. You realise,
Pokemon Go?
Yes. But the thing about Halloween is you're letting people into your house quite regularly who you can't see their face.
Yeah.
Boom. That's the premise of any criminal activity.
But also the fact that it taps into that whole, do you trust, like the babysitter killer kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like are you really safe if you're home alone with like babysitting someone else's kids or whatever.
Exactly.
And it had this small town, like for me growing up in a small town, like watching a movie like this, it's bad because it's just like you roam around. There was a time, like not so much anymore, when you just walked around like the neighborhood and stuff, and at certain times of day, even if you were like, you know, under 10 years old or whatever, there was a certain amount of safety there. But like, you know, all it takes is for you to watch a movie like this, and then you just like you make sure you're indoors after dark, that kind of thing. But there's just so many different ways that it's influenced films.
And the music too, apparently. It was when the guy who invested it saw the cut, he was like, oh yeah. And then he saw the cut with the music, he was like, holy fuck, it's a completely different film.
Yeah.
And it's a theme. Like, if you look at the first James Bond film, his theme plays when he walks from one end of a hotel foyer to another. and the second film, thank God, they're like, you know, we probably didn't need to play the theme that much. But in Halloween, it so works because it's the buzzing when you play Silent Hill. It's the buzzing on your controller. Something's going to happen. Yeah. And apparently the guy he saw a screening once, and his sons brought some friends to watch it, and every time the theme went on, they were like that. I said, "What's wrong with your hearing?" He said, "Nothing. The theme is the scary bit."
Yeah.
And no, something bad's going to happen.
That's right.
So she's like, "Oh shit, that's genius."
Yeah. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
It deserves its place in the mantle of horror history.
Yeah.
But it's one of those ones that transcends the genre though.
Yeah.
And can be lined up with like, I mean, it's a game changer for the genre. But I think you have to, like, if you were going to look back at the important films in history, like it's got to register in there. Yeah. Surely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I like there's people like, I can't remember, it was again in one of these kind of extras, and I think it might have been Dean Cundy that was talking about it, and he was saying how they were talking to somebody and they were going, you can't honestly think this is going to be a classic movie to him, because you know you go in, it's a horror, you know, really dismissing of it straight away, and he was like, well, no, we wouldn't be making it if we weren't hoping that it was going to be this a big film. You know, we have to have that belief in it. You know, he goes, and of course now the rest is, you know, history. It's like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, like any great films that win Academy Awards and great pieces of art, absolutely. But yeah, it's like fucking MASH. You know.
Yeah.
MASH is everybody's DNA because they repeated it so much.
Yes.
But a lot has come from it. And same thing in this film. Like I hadn't seen the film, but it's influenced my viewing habits in my life in ways I didn't realise until I saw it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is you can do a completely lowbrow B-grade, C-grade film and still have a huge effect on the culture of your civilization.
Yeah.
And this film has,
Yeah.
you know. And I think when you talk to the filmmakers today, that does throw them a little bit.
Yeah.
You know.
The important thing with this as well is because it was made for like next to nothing, and then all of a sudden producers were like, "Wait, you were able to make this for this?
Yeah.
Okay, then that's why we suddenly get this kind of plethora of similar movies, like slasher films,
The 13th,
made with absolutely no budget to their name and trying to repeat it.
Well, that's the Nirvana, isn't it? Like Paranormal Activity was 30,000.
Yeah.
Guys Set for Life, which was even less.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Anyway.
But it's interesting not all of them go on to be...
well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, even this film wasn't obviously made with the intention of it being a franchise. I think you were mentioning it earlier. And when they were approached and said, like, would you be considered to kind of make it, write a sequel to it? It's, they were like, well, how do we do that? And really kind of opened it up. So, I mean, we can talk about that down the track. But yeah, it really, really kind of raised a lot of, just set the ball rolling, kind of, and kind of made people think differently about how they can tell a story in a scary and simple way on film. And it's a great movie for it.
Yeah,
I think that kind of wraps us up, buddy, guys. That's essentially our third film. It's our fourth film surgery.
We shoot these on order.
But yeah, that's right. But stick around for our next procedure, which will be the fog. And
I can't wait to hear what I say about that.
But we hope you enjoyed our discussions, and until next time, we are Ben Skinner. Anthony Yee.
That's it.
And your humble host, Paul Farrell. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. John Carpenter, The Early Years, Halloween. Music supplied by Peter Nezik. For more discussions or podcasts, head over to surgeonsofhorror.com or head over to our Facebook and Twitter sites for the latest news and updates.